Hello, America, and to all of our listeners all over the world. You're listening to yet another exciting edition of Let's Weekend. I'm your host and most, Brandon Perkins. Joining me as always is Chris Salogi. Say hi to the good people, Chris.
Hello.
Yeah, so it is November 29th, 2025. We are 2 days after Thanksgiving. We have all digested and recovered from the food coma. And we are now very much in the twilight of autumn and getting ready to go into winter and the midst of the holiday season because, next time you'll be hearing from us next week, it's going to be beginnings of December. And funny enough, it already feels like it because I am freezing my balls off right now. Which I know for a lot of those out there, you're like, it's 47. That isn't as much. It is for us down here when like a normal spring day can be either mildly discomforting or sweltering. But anyway, amongst the things that happened this week that we will be discussing, obviously one of the big ones is the shooting of two National Guard members in the District of Columbia, one of which passed away from their wounds, which, of course, has given the Trump administration the excuse they needed to now go all ham and go crazy with sending a bunch more troops into D.C. and halting all asylum shit for the time being. Obviously, that wasn't everything. We also lost a great actor this week. We also got some bullshittery for the National Park Service because, again, the administration is just bound and determined to do stupid shit. And we also got a couple of entertainment-related stuff as well, including some announcements. And somebody managed to find like one of the rarest comic books out there in almost mint-perfect condition. And it sold for like a seven-figure sum. We got all that and more on this week's episode of Let's Weekend. But before we get started, as we get started, we're going to start off doing, as is tradition, what we usually do, which is talking about all the stuff we've been doing up to this point this week. And, as is also tradition, we will be starting with Chris. So, Chris, tell me what you've been doing this week.
Yeah, it's been nice and cold. We've got some snow.
Yep.
Today's high is 31, so that's been fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, been doing some things, enjoying the little break here with Thanksgiving and all that. And yeah, been maybe spending a bit more on Black Friday stuff than I probably should have, but it's better than buying it when it's not on sale. So there's that. For things I've been doing, I've finished up Stranger Things season 5, volume 1. The first 4 episodes of this last season. And it's really fun. So kind of where they're at this point, after the big like disaster that happens at the end of season 4, I think they zoom ahead to the following spring. The military has come in, as you would expect, and patched up the huge earth that's been ripped apart with big like steel plates, and kind of put the town back together as best they could, and kind of taken over the town. So everything is under kind of military rule for the most part, which involves all the fun stuff that you would expect. And the interesting part, because of the way this all works, is essentially the military has access to a gate to go to the Upside Down, and they've set up a military base over there, and they're kind of exploring and doing their experimentation, all that. And the main cast that now is all in town, the Byers family, the Wheelers, Hopper, Robin, Steve, Dustin, Lucas, and all the kids. They're all there, and essentially like where they're at now is like on their 30-something time trying to mirror when the military's going to the upside down, um,
Mhm.
and kind of doing their own reconnaissance work, trying to find Vecna and put an end to all of this once and
Mm.
for all, and then sort of find out that they have been not prepared at all for whatever's going to happen. So I'm not really to
Mhm.
spoil anything else that happens there, but a lot of interesting stuff that's been going on. People dealing with the consequences of their action or inaction or whatever sort of
Mhm.
things they're going through. And yeah, kind of makes for a pretty fun start to this season. I think the one thing people have zeroed in on is like, oh, this is not the right thing. Is there's a kid that's playing
Mm.
Ghosts and Goblins, I think, and it's the arcade version and not the NES version that the kid seems to be playing
Mm.
on. So that's like the one thing I've seen people getting upset about, but otherwise, seems good so far.
Mhm.
There's a new actress for the youngest Wheeler daughter, Holly, which I guess
Mm.
previously was played by twins. Now they have a new girl because the twins essentially have stopped wanting to act. They just live a
Mhm.
normal life, so they have a new actor there, and she's more of a part of the story.
Mhm.
So there's that. Otherwise, I think everybody else is back. Um, though joined by Linda Hamilton. This is one of the
Mhm.
top doctors or scientists in the military faction,
Mm.
spending all of her time in the Upside Down.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's that. That's been fun. And while I was watching stuff, I ended up watching The Island for the first time, the Michael
Mhm.
Bay movie that was kind of one of his, I guess, transitions from his early like action movies to then
Mhm.
making the Transformers and all these licensed movies and such. And it's presented uh, as if you're following Ewan McGregor's character and what's her face. Uh, the two main characters are sort of these clones that are living in this facility as they've been told the world is uh, covered in some sort of uh, poison or something, and there's like one island that is the remaining good place on Earth, and so they have lotteries to
Mhm.
decide who gets to go every once in a while. But Ewan McGregor's character is very much the kind that does not kind of grows to distrust this whole supposed story that they've been told,
Mhm.
and breaks out to find like the medical facility on the site that he sees the the woman that was pregnant go off to the island supposedly to give birth and find out, oh,
Mhm.
they she gives birth and then they kill her because
Mm.
it's a surrogate birth essentially. And then Michael Clark Duncan is the guy that you see win the lottery at the beginning of the movie and find out he's sort of woken up in the middle of surgery, and sort
Mm.
of escapes as Ewan McGregor is sort of trying to blend in the medical area, and then they kind of find
Mhm.
out that he has gotten out, broken containment, and finds out that the woman he's interested in, is friends with, is has also been picked for the island.
Mm.
And sort of they break out, try to find their way to somewhere safe and all that. And yeah, thanks for a pretty good action movie and all that. The story is
Mm.
pretty boilerplate for all
Mhm.
things told. But yeah, that's a solid one. Yeah, that was also one that got a lawsuit over the story being plagiarized or something, or it's very similar to somebody
Yeah.
else's story.
Yeah.
Um, they did not beat those allegations.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, because it's a lot of that movie is like a pastiche of like a bunch of uh, escape from dystopia type movies. Like there's bits of like Fahrenheit 451, there's a bits of THX 1138, Logan's Run, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess this was a film from 1979 called Parts: The Clonus Horror.
yep, which is kind of where they ended up having to get the copyright from because they basically claim like, yeah, this is a straight up a rip off of ours.
Yeah. So that was interesting to see. I was going into it, I was like, this has to be based on a book or something, and it's not. But as you've seen, it's pretty derivative of other works
Yeah,
like this because it's a pretty simple sci-fi plot. It's set in the far-off future of 2019,
yeah.
where they have like big hover bikes and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's fun. So there's that.
Mm.
Um, and the other thing I've been watching is some One Piece. I'm in the middle of
Yeah.
the Dressrosa arc,
Mm-hmm.
which has its own weird shit going on. Because you find out that there's like toys living in this city alongside the humans, though they're not allowed to live together. And then you find out
Mm-hmm.
the toys used to be humans, and
Right.
then they their former selves have been forgotten by their spouses, kids, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're finding out the connections of some of these people,
Mm-hmm.
their toys, and all that, and that's weird. And there's a tournament going on that Luffy wants to win because the prize is the fire fruit that Ace had consumed, and
Mm-hmm.
since he's dead, it has appeared in the world again. But that they also potentially have a factory that's manufacturing devil fruits
Mm-hmm.
in this area, so they're partnered with Trafalgar Law to try to
Mm.
find this, and as you would expect, they've run into trouble various places. So all hell's breaking loose where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been fun. So there's that for what I've been watching, for what I've been playing. I finished Power Wash Simulator 2. Um,
Mm-hmm.
really good game. Really fun ending. Not going to spoil it for people. I would say it's less elaborate as the way that Power Wash Simulator 1 ends,
Mm.
but it's still pretty satisfying.
Oh yeah.
As you kind of see um, certain people get their comeuppance, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's still the matter of bad things happening, and you get to uh, stop that by the end, and they have a nice little ending there for that. The way that they have all the money doled out, you basically kind of want to spend your money on the newer washers and sort of sell your lesser
Older
washers
stuff. Yeah.
to fund that because they give you all the money you need to buy everything at the end after you beat the
Mm-hmm.
finish the final job.
Yep.
So it's not like in the first game where you kind of reach that point right near the end. So that's kind of the one little negative there. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, everything else kind of works out. And now I'm got all the achievements on Steam, and that's a fun time. But like
Mm-hmm.
47 hours into it, looks like on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well worth it. I also beat Ball Pit, which I got to the final stage, which involves like it's set on the moon, and then
Mm-hmm.
uh, the final boss there is a spaceship that has like pods that attach to it. And you need to beat it with that many enemy or any of your characters to essentially fill the spaceship, and then it gives some trippy visual ending thing before they roll
Mm.
credits. And then it opens up a new game plus, and you can go and get all the achievements and all
Mm-hmm.
that. And I still have less than half of the achievements because a lot of them are just beating the game with each of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
um, beating all the stages with each of the characters, and I think the others are beating each of the stages with every character.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, as you try to do that, uh, you'll get that. And yeah, where I'm at, I have 5 spaces for active balls and 5 spaces for passive
Mm,
things, versus the 4 that you start with. And so there, now I can kind of do different combos than I would normally, because I've been trying to use a guide for all the combos and kind of pair the first two people I'm picking for that will evolve into something. And now where I'm at,
mm-hmm,
the those two characters, their active ball will be at max level. So basically, as soon
mm-hmm,
as you get the opportunity to, you'll be able to evolve their weapons into their next form.
mm,
Um, and where I'm at now, like the first of the passives you'll get will be at least I think level 2. I still have buildings to build and
mm-hmm,
max out and all that. But there's also a little more advanced kind of combos. Some that requires an evolved weapon plus a third
mm-hmm,
ball. Some that might require. I think there's one here that requires 3 different evolved balls being combined together. Um, I think that turns into Dracula essentially, because they're all. I think these are all reliant on the vampire ball. So,
mm-hmm,
but there's also evolutions for the passives, and those are a bit tougher because there's so many of them. Getting them
mm-hmm,
all, but you do have the opportunity to banish stuff, so you can kind of whittle things down. Where I've been, those are a bit harder to get together,
mm,
but yeah, I'm still playing this, still enjoying it a lot. That's the sort of game where, as you kind of play further, it gets easier and it kind of builds in more ways to get you further along versus the way you start with a lot of the setup stuff here for
mm-hmm.
that. So, yeah, really enjoyed that. So I'm probably going to be writing up 2 reviews for those games here in the next few days, hopefully. But the other game I've been playing some more of is Sectori, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the fantastic dual stick shooter that I've been making some progress in. I've gotten to through the second world in the main campaign, and got a new high score, like about 1.5 million points on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of managed to get things lined up right to kind of have um, a good build that was destroying a lot of stuff. And of course, where I die out is on the third boss. That just is an evolution of a previous boss I fought, and that thing just
Mm-hmm.
fucking destroyed. It's one that's like a classic kind of spinning laser boss that kind of turns the lasers off and on. Like, okay, I'll move
Mm-hmm.
here, um, and be out of the way. And then what I realize is, no, it has 3 of those lasers here, so you need to not
Mm-hmm.
be here at all. And so I got destroyed immediately, and I was like, all right, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've been unlocking more like mutators for some of the side uh, modes and more stuff for the campaign and all that. So definitely
Mm-hmm.
still unlocking a lot of content there, and really enjoying that a lot. For when I need a pretty simple game that's just gonna keep my eyeballs occupied for a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been doing. So how about you, Brandon?
All right. Well, as for me, um, I am also still playing Power Wash Simulator 2, and I'm actually in the middle, and by that I mean literally in the middle, about halfway through cleaning up the shopping mall, which, once again, another interior only job, which can be annoying, but it's not as annoying now that I've got the stronger washers and equipment to go with it, so it's not quite as infuriating as it had been. It is, again, still really fun, still really like that game, still really enjoying it. And I am to understand that I am kind of getting towards the end of it, that I've got a few more jobs, and then I've got the last uh, job to do to end the game, but still a lot of fun. I will say though, if I have like one thing about this game I don't like, it's like when having to clean ceilings and just having like trying to move around and clean those ceilings, but because I'm staring straight up, obviously I can't you know I theoretically cannot bend over backwards, obviously, but it's still like one of those things where it's like, I could probably move this washer just a little further upper, but whatever. Still fun. Uh, so yeah, I'm still playing that. And last night I started playing Still Wakes the Deep, which is a game from I think came out. I want to say it either came out earlier this year or later last year. I think it was last year. It's a first-person survival horror game. It takes place in the mid-70s on an oil rig off the coast of Scotland, mostly made up of uh, Scottish men and women working on this rig. You're playing this guy named Kaz, who is basically he's working on this oil rig because he got into a row with some other guy, beat him half to death, and now he's essentially on the run because he's probably going to get assault charges if he gets caught. Um, and he's pretty much convinced that if he goes back, he's going to be thrown into jail almost immediately. So he decided to go make a run for it, and now he's on this oil rig working as an electrician. Um, and essentially, the way the whole game starts is you wake up that morning, you're going to the canteen to get breakfast, meet up with Roy, the guy who kind of helped you get the job in the first place, meet up with some of the other people who are working on this rig, and you find out like pretty quickly like a lot of the game's sort of background has to do with sort of the fact that in the mid 70s, this is when they were just starting to exploit the oil reserves that were just off the coast of Scotland, and there's these disputes over whether or not it should all whether it should be owned specifically by Scotland itself or have the majority of it, or whether it should belong to the UK and the Commonwealth. There's like two characters in it. One of them is nicknamed Trots, and the other nicknamed Adair, and both of them are like on the opposite ends of the political spectrum. Trots is very much a on the left wing. He's basically talking about trying to get all the other members to go through with possible industrial action because the rigs, frankly, just its safety levels are just in the gutter and parts of it are falling apart. And then there's Adair, who you go into his room and you find a flyer for the British National Front, which is basically all you really need to know about that guy. He's an asshole, basically. And eventually you get called up to the boss's office, where he essentially fires you. You are now like, well, I can't run anymore. I'm gonna get onto the helicopter and evac. And then the drill that the thing is drilling into hits something. Something that's otherworldly and slowly taking over the whole oil rig and turning it into like monstrous meat floss and shit. And that's essentially how the game starts. Now you're trying to survive against all this weird shit. And so far the game is really good. I will say it definitely has some like frame rate issues, but I think that's partly due to the fact that like it was already a game that was made for PC that was translated to PS5, and it does work really well on the PS5, but like you can tell at parts that it's kind of struggling to keep things going smoothly. But yeah, other than that, it's actually pretty good. And it's one of the games that they have for free up on PSN right now. So if you got PS Plus, go ahead and grab it. And then, of course, there's, books, nothing new there. And, of course, the Mighty Nine is still ongoing. They're doing basically like it's a 8 episode season, but they're doing like one. As far as like the new releases, they're doing like one episode per week. And the new episode was actually really good. And ended up sort of bringing the whole group together. And really kind of setting the tone because, like I said, compared to Vox Machina, which is very much like a Vox Machina, The Legend of Vox Machina is good, but it's a lot more like character and humor focused. Mighty Nine definitely has its funny moments, but it's very much a plot-driven show, and it's a lot darker in tone as well. And one of the things that makes it like really fun to watch is that even though it has like a serious storyline, if you've ever watched like Critical Role on YouTube, you'll realize literally the whole plot really is like determined by all the dice rolls and stuff, which really kind of keeps the show unpredictable in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. So, Chris, is there anything you want to add before we move on?
Nope.
All right. Well, in that case, it's now time to move on to everybody's favorite part of the show, Brandon's Random Factoid. And we had been, for the last few shows, we have been doing these a sort of mini-series talking about cults, specifically the B-tier cults, the ones you may or may not have heard of, but they don't really have the kind of reach or cultural impact the same way like, Scientology or Jonestown or one of those groups. Some of these groups are kind of obscure. Some of them, you may have heard of them, but you don't understand like what their reach is. And some of them you may have heard of because they did one really awful thing and that just made them kind of famous for a little while. We're going to end it this week with what I call a B-tier cult that is almost an A-tier cult simply because of the fact that their like heyday of like publicity and stuff sort of came and went in the 70s. But they are still very much around, and they also have their clutches, their tentacles in all types of various business and political ends that is honestly kind of gross. And when you realize like where they make all of their money and stuff from, it's going to surprise you because you're going to be like, I did not realize these guys were that influential. The group that we are talking about is today called the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, also known as the Unification Church, or as it's more colloquially known by most regular people, the Moonies. Now, the Moonies were one of those groups that popped up in the 1960s, and they were one of the, like, along with, like, the Hare Krishnas, they were sort of like the poster child for the sort of moral panic over new religious movements and cults that started. Essentially, what you need to know about the Unification Church is it's a quote-unquote Christian organization, except that their founder claimed to be the second coming of Christ incarnate. It was founded in the mid-50s by a gentleman named Sun Myung Moon, or the Reverend Moon, as many people called him, along with his wife, Hak Jahan, both of whom are called the true parents, individually true father and true mother by the group. They have two scriptures. One, of course, is the Christian Bible, and the other is Divine Principle, which is the book that was written by the Reverend Moon himself. Now, like a lot of these groups that sort of happen, Moon did not originally want to start his own group, nor did he give his followers an official name. at least until 1954. It had existed for a couple years previously, sort of as just like a regular weird sort of church group. By the way, one of the things about I need to point out about Christianity in South Korea is like one of the most notorious cult centers in the industrialized world. They're up there with like Japan for the crazy amount of new religious movements that pop up there. The only difference is that with South Korea, it's often these oddball, like Protestant offshoots of mainstream Christianity. And the Unification Church is like pretty much like patient zero for these types of groups. Now, like I said, the essential sort of story about like how this group was founded, um, according to the Reverend Moon, he was like a a Christian who was born in what is now North Korea. He was born in, let's see, yeah, actually, I want to make sure that's the case. He was, uh, yep, he was born in a part of what's North Korea, in the area that's now known as the North Pyongan province. When he was born, it was under, if you may remember, for a while, Korea was under Japanese occupation, and he was born into that. Um, and being a Christian in Korea at this time period could be a bit of a um, it could be a bit of an issue, especially at this point because after World War II and by the time he had come of age, you might have heard how Korea after the end of the war ended up getting um, bifurcated into two countries, what are called North Korea and South Korea. And Korea at first had this, at the time, South Korea was under the dictatorship of Syngman Rhee. Which was backed by the United States military. North Korea was going through this weird transition point because although it was technically under, Soviet suzerain or whatever, it was still nominally independent and was still nominally allowed to run its own political affairs. Now, of course, that would eventually end right around the time 1950s came around when the Soviets would keep a harder stance, and that's when, Kim Il-sung came into power. And in 1946, he crossed the border from south in North Korea because he had been sort of living in exile in the southern part of the country for a while. He decided to go into the northern part of the country to try and preach, and he was arrested and on allegations for spying and was sent to a labor camp for a few years. After he was released, he then started a church group. That church group eventually became the origins of what will become the Unification Church. Now, the sort of like hagiography that Moon wrote about himself essentially says that, he was a devout Christian who was trying to find out, like, do I want to be Catholic? Do I want to be Protestant? What church is the right church? And then supposedly Jesus met him on the top of a mountain and said, none of these churches are the right ones. You need to start a new one and finish the work that I started. And that's like a big thing with his theology. He said that the reason that he himself specifically was the incarnate sort of second coming of Christ was because the original Jesus lived and died before he could finish his mission. So he needed a new person to come about and finish his work. This also sort of plays into like the sort of like the weird sort of religious thing that was going on in Korea at the time, because especially in the southern part of the country, a lot of the Protestant related church groups often would use like religious language to talk about the fight between, liberal democracy and Soviet communism, where Soviet communism is Satan and liberal democracy is godly, and that this is essentially a whole thing of like like a final showdown that's going to happen in Korea. And so, because of this, hardcore anti communism is a huge part of the Unification Church and its mission. Because of this, the Unification Church has a lot of various like political and conservative ideological front groups and various like organs all over the world. Here in the United States, probably their most notorious creation is a conservative newspaper called the Washington Times. Um, it was originally founded in the 1970s and then was owned by it until uh, they then sold it. And then Sun Moon himself and a group of former editors then like founded uh, a shell group like a few months later to buy it back. So it's theoretically an independent paper, like on paper, like a term of art, but it's still very much like a um, very much an organ of the Unification Church, and it's also very much like a an example of like the type of politics that it pushes. Uh, for one thing, Sun Myung Moon was a major like financial supporter and political supporter of Richard Nixon um, during the Watergate scandal. He was also active supporter of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. He was also active with a bunch of like the like sort of the what was then the then born sort of what we now call the religious right. So he was like close with guys like Jerry Falwell and Paul Weyrich and guys like that. Um, and of course, it wasn't just in the U.S. He also had a bunch of political stuff involved in South Korea itself, especially involving with the various like dictatorships that existed in South Korea at the time. He was a big supporter of Syngman Rhee's successor, which was Park Chung-hee, um, until Park Chung-hee himself was assassinated by one of his intelligence officers. Um, they notoriously have a huge connection with a bunch of conservative politicians in Japan. Some of y'all may vaguely remember a couple years ago when the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated in the streets of, I think it was in the streets of Tokyo, by a guy who made like a handcrafted shotgun. Well, the reason the guy did it was because um, Abe was tight with the Unification Church, and by that time, the Unification Church had become incredibly wealthy. And I'll talk a little bit about like the economic stuff in a little bit. By like essentially extorting their followers, they are very much considered a cult, not just because of how weird they are, but because of the enormous amount of like financial control that they have on their members. Um, and the ruling party in Japan, the Liberal Democratic Party, was had a lot of financial ties with the Unification Church, and the guy who killed him, like, essentially blamed Abe for his family's bankruptcy. In fact, the earlier this year, I think back in March, the Japanese branch of the Unification Church was actually forcibly disbanded by court order, specifically because of the issues that the assassinated brought up. Um, it's else, and it's like it isn't like they hadn't had issues in Japan already. They had had to go through a couple of different rebrandings um, because of their reputation. Um, Heavily, of course, being the quote unquote spiritual sales, which is essentially one of the things that led Tetsuya Yamagami to kill Shinzo Abe because of what happened to his mother. Um, and of course, there's that's just one example. But then we got to talk about like like life in this group, like what they do. Probably the one thing like publicly that this group is most notorious for is the blessing ceremony, which is these huge like mass wedding ceremonies that they do like annually. Um, Theoretically, the idea a lot of these like are like church members who are paired up more or less like in an arrangement, like an arranged marriage, basically. And they have like these enormous, these huge mass weddings that will like fill out coliseums and stadiums. Um, and they do this because of this like weird sort of interpretation Reverend Moon had about uh, what he called the serpent seed, which was this idea that uh, at some point, Eve may have had sex with Satan in the Garden of Eden, and thus instilling, original sin into the human bloodline, and therefore you need these blessing ceremonies to purify it. It's once again, it's another one of those things where it's like, yeah, they're clearly doing this to just control people and their members. And then, of course, they've got holy days as well. They've got the birthdays of Reverend Moon and his wife, the day that when they were married, all of these others. And then, of course, there's like what their members do out in public. Because one of the things that the Unification Church became infamous for was their proselytizing. Much the same way how, like, the Hare Krishnas back in the day, they used to like dress up and hang out at like airports and stuff and like give out literature. The Moonies did the same thing. They would hang around airports or bookstores or civic centers where they would, among other things, they would um, they would sell or hand out like flowers or sweets that were made like in this factory, and I think it was like in southern France. Um, and they would force their members out there for like hours at a time, pay them very little because they're supposedly, involved in like religious work, so they're in it for, the love of the game or whatever. Um, and the fact that people would talk to them and it's like they came off like, and they did like a lot of the like typical cult recruitment stuff, like they would come up to random people and they would like trick them into going into like, do you want to go to like church with us or something? And then turns out it's the Moonies, and then they get hit with like love bombing and stuff. Um, so it's obviously for no surprise that these guys ended up being sort of one of the many faces of the anti-cult movement by the time it showed up in the 70s and 80s. Um, as for the Reverend Moon himself, he did end up going to prison for a while. Um, in 1982, he was convicted of conspiracy and tax evasion, and he had to serve 13 months at a federal correctional institution before going to a halfway house. Uh, there was like a big controversy about it too, um, because there was a lot of like freedom of religion and free speech debates about it. And It only made Moon even worse because after he came out, he ended up literally calling himself the Messiah. So like he didn't learn a damn thing. Um, and He actually passed away back in 2012, in August of that year. And he passed away at the age of, I think it was, 92 years old. Currently, the Unification Church is run by his wife, Hak Jahan, um, but there was a splinter group that came away from this group. You may or may not have heard of it. It's called the Church of the Iron Rod, um, or also known as Rod of Iron Ministries, which was founded by two of Moon's sons, and they're really not that different from the original, Unification Church, with only a couple of differences. One of them is the fact that both of them claim to be following the true teachings of the Unification Church, whereas their mother has sort of turned it into like a financial vehicle. Which of course is bullshit because it was always a financial vehicle. That's always been the whole point. And also for the fact that They use a AR-15 semi-automatic rifle as a religious relic because they believe it represents the quote rod of iron mentioned in Book of Revelations. They very famously use a lot of gun imagery in their worship services. Their leader of the cult, Hyung Jin Moon, or Sean Moon, as he's known, usually wears a crown that's made out of like 7.7 bullets. They also have, it's just weird. Oh yeah, and they're if you couldn't guess already, they're huge MAGA supporters as well. So there's also that. But yeah, that is the Unification Church and one of its notorious offshoots, and that has been yet another installment of Brandon's Random Factoid. All right, so with that, we're going to go move on to the show proper. And as always with the show proper, we start off with our assholes of the week. And our first asshole of the week is this dipshit who decided to go out in D.C. and shoot two National Guard members at point blank range, one of whom has now since died from their injuries.
Yeah.
And the more we're hearing about this character, it's like there are layers upon layers here.
Yeah. This was an Afghan national who came over in the wake of us pulling out of Afghanistan and
Yep.
was sort of in the process of going through, Operation Allies Welcome, which
Mm-hmm.
was a Biden administration program, but he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
officially approved until April,
Mm-hmm.
when Trump was in power. And yeah, kind of seemed to they drove from Washington State to D.C. to shoot people essentially with a 357 Smith and Wesson revolver. So
Mm-hmm.
not like an AK-47 or AR-15 or anything big that would
Mm-hmm.
shoot a lot of stuff. So very deliberate kind of act here. Yeah, the video showed the assailant came around the corner and immediately started firing at the troops.
Mm-hmm.
Service members ran over and held down the shooter, who was taken into custody, and he was the only gunman. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not sure exactly what the person was hoping to accomplish, other than probably just some chaos stuff. Especially in the wake of everything that's going on with
Mm-hmm.
the National Guard and the immigration stuff and all that. So yeah, seems like the charges have been upgraded to include one count of first-degree murder, 3 counts of possession of a firearm during a crime of violence, and 2 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed. The murder charge was added after the one National Guardsman died.
Yep.
I guess they might throw more charges on there, so probably going to prison for a
Mm-hmm.
long time,
Yep.
or they just deport him. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so in response, President Trump vowed on Thanksgiving to permanently pause migration from poorer nations in the wake of the shooting, and he's also pausing all asylum decisions for the time being.
Yeah, had this long screed on Truth Social about this, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, sure, sure. We'll see on all that. As he yelled here, only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that,
Mm.
happy Thanksgiving to all except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. It was like, are you
It's the
talking
same.
about yourself?
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, yeah, he now sees pausing all asylum decisions for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then the safety of the American people always come first. From Joseph Edlow, Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Until we can ensure that every alien is vetted and screened to the maximum degree possible, which they already are. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we're one of the most rigorous processes for screening everybody that tries to immigrate to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah. course, Trump goes on True Social and says, "I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover." Which
Mm,
is what's the third world? Which for him is
mm-hmm.
probably everything that isn't the U.S.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go.
So we got that. And then we also have this news. The former president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, has officially begun serving his 27-year prison sentence for an attempted coup d'etat. Funny enough, he actually apparently tried to make a run for it because he tried to destroy the detector on his ankle bracelet while he was under house arrest.
Yeah, there seemed to be something with Trump where he was expecting Bolsonaro to visit soon.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, they managed to capture him beforehand, and he is going to serve out his prison sentence and probably die
hmm
in prison
Yep, probably.
for all that. So yeah, congratulations, Brazil. We're happy
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, seriously. Uh, and then we got this news that the Pentagon is apparently investigating Senator Mark Kelly over telling troops to refuse illegal orders. By the way, that is a part of training. You are trained to refuse an order that is patently illegal.
Yeah,
So he's not saying anything that they don't know, and most people are pretty convinced that this thing doesn't even have standing, so it might not even end up in a courtroom. So,
yeah, and especially they are trying to punish him. Yeah, they put out a statement saying that had quote unquote received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly, USN, retired, and
mm,
that quote a thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions, which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures.
mm,
Um, this matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. Further official comments will be limited to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. And it's like, oh yeah, sure, this will definitely be impartial and all that. There's also a whole thing where Hegseth was talking shit about him and like, oh, your medals are not in the right order and all this, and people had to remind
yeah,
him,
that is a mirrored image.
yeah, as like he used a phone mirrored.
hmm
Uh, so yeah, fun times here. I don't think everything I've seen has suggested he's going to have no real issues here, but
hmm
who knows with these people?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so that's happening. And then down here in my state, it was announced that the criminal case against Trump and his allies for trying to overturn the 2020 election results in the state of Georgia has officially been dismissed.
Yeah. The new prosecutor, Pete Scandalakis, is the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, has moved to end prosecution against the remaining defendants after he assumed the case from Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis. Um, and so, yeah, the Fulton Superior Judge Scott McAfee has ordered the case to be dismissed in its entirety, which is a shame, but not surprising. They got everything. Essentially, got the District Attorney Fannie Willis disqualified and all that. So, yeah, that fun times.
Yeah. And then finally, we got the news that President Trump is planning to pardon the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted last year of drug trafficking and weapons charges and sentenced to 45 years in prison.
Yeah, and not like a small amount of drugs. Apparently,
Mm-hmm.
enough for like millions of doses of heroin. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the whole thing that Trump is currently running on is, you know, going after drug cartels and all that, and keeping the drugs out of the country. That him pardoning uh somebody that was
Mm-hmm.
convicted for drug trafficking
Mm-hmm.
seems to fly in the face of that. As he said on True Social, according to many people that I greatly respect, he was treated very harshly and unfairly, which means
Yeah.
he'll get a pardon and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. More bullshit.
But it's not all terrible because we do have some heroes of the week where a judge threw out not one but two cases from the Department of Justice, one against James Comey and the other against Letitia James, due to finding their prosecutor was unlawfully appointed.
Yeah,
Because they are so bad at this that they even like let's be honest, neither of these, even if they did make it to court, were gonna fly anyway
yeah,
because they don't really have any legal merit. But they're so bad at this that they managed to have the case thrown out before it even began on a technicality.
yeah. So yeah, the judge said here that the appointment of Lindsay Halligan as the top prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia marks a
Mhm.
significant setback to efforts to go after the president's perceived political enemies.
Mhm.
In dual rulings, Judge Curry said all actions flowing from Miss Halligan's defective appointment,
Mhm.
which includes those against James Comey and Letitia James, were unlawful exercises of executive power and are hereby set aside. The
Mhm.
cases are dismissed without prejudice, meaning the Justice Department may be able to bring those cases again. And yeah, Carolyn Levitt said some bullshit here. So, but yeah, she was former lawyer for Trump, who was appointed as acting U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia after he pushed out the previous top prosecutor, who expressed doubts about
Mhm.
bringing charges against both Comey and James. Halligan is a former insurance attorney who once served as Trump's personal lawyer before his return to office when she joined his administration as a White House aide. She has no previous prosecutorial experience. Was sworn in as acting U.S. Attorney on September 22nd. 3 days later, she secured a 2-count criminal indictment against Comey, just days before the statute of limitations expired. He has pleaded
Mhm.
not guilty. So, yeah, fun times. Good to see. So, there you go.
Yep. But yeah, from that we move on from the show proper to the proper show proper. Uh, and unfortunately, tonight we say goodbye to an amazing actor, Mr. Udo Kier, who passed away this week at the age of 81. He was in like over 200 films, and he was famous for collaborating a lot with the late Andy Warhol. Um, but he also did work with Lars von Trier and Madonna. Um, yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see. He was a German actor who came over to the U.S. eventually. If you look at his filmography, you'll see a lot of uh, German and like Italian and various European countries. He did a lot of work in
Hmm.
um, for that, and then he eventually came over in like the late '80s, early '90s. Was in a lot of stuff like My Own Private Idaho,
Mm.
uh, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. As a little bit part, he was kind of a character actor. Well known for
Hmm.
that. Johnny Mnemonic, Barbed Wire, Armageddon, Blade. Yeah, a bunch of stuff here. Not always great stuff. Um, as noted by him being in two Uwe Boll movies. He was in
Hmm.
Blood Rain and what was the other one? Far Cry. He was in. But he did get to be in a lot of fun movies. It was like the Rob Zombie Halloween, Grindhouse, a bunch of good stuff
Hmm.
there, and all that, and a bunch of TV shows as well for that. So yeah, fun actor. He was also supposed to be in OD, but I
Hmm.
believe from what Kojima put out a statement on, he had not started filming or recording any of his bits, so they may end up having to recast his
Hmm.
role, which is a shame because it seems like that would be a fun place to see him in. But yeah, he was in Martha's Dead and Call of Duty World War II,
Hmm.
um, and some of the original Command and Conquer games, Red Alert
Hmm.
2 and Yuri's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
for that. And yeah, and a bunch of music videos, especially in the 90s and early 2000s. Like Madonna, Goo Goo Dolls, Korn. Was in one in 2012 for Terra Nova, a German band.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one of those guys that if you look up a picture of him, you'll recognize him
Mm.
from something. And yeah, I was looking at his Wikipedia page, and it was like, oh, I found out he was gay. They kind of been open about that, but nobody really cared or made a big deal about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they just kind of uh, lived his life as he needed to, and yeah, I was with his partner Delbert McBride for over 20 years until his passing. So yeah, there you go.
Mm.
Sad to see, but behind a lot of fun work.
Yeah, sad to see, but he left a lot of his work for us to remember him by. But moving on from there, our first story for the night is the administration is increasing prices on annual park passes for foreigners to get into national parks
Yeah,
for some reason.
to make more money off of uh, foreigners, to, visitors that come to our parks and all that kind of stuff. This is going to be an increase of $100,
Mm,
$100 per person charge for foreigners entering Yellowstone, Grand Canyon, and other national parks that are part of this pass. That takes place, yeah, it takes effect January 1st. Foreign tourists also will see a sharp price increase for the annual parks pass to $250 per vehicle. U.S. residents will continue to be charged $80 for an annual pass. Um, and if you go look up those passes, you can see the new art, one of which features Trump on it, his face, and the other one is like a military pass that features him like on stage in front of a military crowd with big ass bulletproof glass in front of him.
mm-hmm,
Where it's like, I don't know that I would have picked this image for this, but it's pretty funny to see. So yeah, increasing the prices on this pretty sharply and just kind of adding to the costs that tourists will have to pay if they are going to come and visit some of our great national parks, which is a shame.
mm-hmm.
That's going to hurt tourism even more. So
Yeah,
great job.
yeah. And now we got this Medicare news. Medicare has negotiated the latest round of lower prices for 15 different drugs.
Yeah,
I believe Ozempic is one of them.
yeah. Ozempic, Wegovy, and Rybelsus have a
Mm-hmm,
71% discount on
mm-hmm,
those for obesity and type 2 diabetes. They have current list prices around $1,000 a month, which is a big deal. These will go into effect in 2027, so not even for this immediate year. Negotiations also include drugs for asthma, breast cancer, and
mm-hmm,
leukemia. The discounts range from 38% for Austedo, which treats Huntington's disease, to 85% for
mm-hmm,
Janimet for type 2 diabetes. Yeah, this was a Biden part of the Inflation Reduction Act.
mm-hmm,
That's just continued to go on, and Republicans haven't, torn it out just yet because it would be a pretty bad look. Then again, they've been doing a lot of stuff that is also a bad look, and so I don't know. They just haven't stopped
mm-hmm,
this one yet, so uh,
mm.
it's great to see that this is continuing on. So
Oh, yeah.
uh, that'll help out a lot of people. So there you go.
Yeah, so that is going on, and hopefully they'll be able to get some more drugs that they can lower the prices on. Um, and then we got this story that Northwestern, yeah, they are going to be paying President Trump $75 million to restore their funding,
Yeah,
which is like, don't.
yeah. It's only the start. Giving in
Yeah.
to the bully is going to encourage them to keep doing it. So yeah, they've agreed to pay $75 million to the U.S. government in a deal with the Trump administration and a series of investigations, and restore hundreds of millions of dollars in federal research funding. They had cut off $790 million in grants in a standoff that contributed to university layoffs and the resignation of Northwestern president Michael Schill.
Mm-hmm.
The administration argued the school had not done enough to fight anti-Semitism, which is their bullshit language, for they had protests against Israel,
Mm-hmm.
Israel's genocide on Gaza. As part of this agreement, Northwestern will make the payment to the U.S. Treasury over the next 3 years. Among other
Mm-hmm.
commitments, it also requires the university to revoke the so-called Deering Meadow Agreement, which is signed in April 2024 in exchange for
Mm-hmm.
pro-Palestinian protesters ending their tent encampment on campus. So yeah, that's fun to see, and yeah, unfortunately, you've seen like two of the biggest journalism schools kind of bowing down to Trump with this in Columbia, and yeah, that's not great to see. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And then we got this bit of news. So, a rare copy of Superman #1 that was found in an attic has now sold at auction for $9.12 million. Now, this is not Action Comics #1, which is the first appearance of Superman. This is the first issue of the official Superman comic book series that was released by DC.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, this was unearthed by three brothers cleaning out their late mother's attic. Uh, Made themselves $9.12 million at a Texas auction house, which says is the most expensive comic book ever sold. They discovered it in a cardboard box beneath layers of brittle newspapers, dust, and cobwebs in her deceased mother's San Francisco home last year, alongside a handful of other rare comics that she and her siblings had collected on the cusp of World
Mm,
War II.
hmm
She had told her children she had a valuable comic book collection hidden away, but they had never seen it until they put her house up for sale. Decided to comb through her belongings for heirlooms. The brothers uncovered the box of comics and sent a message to the auction company, leading them to fly out to San Francisco earlier this year to inspect their copy of Superman #1, and show it to other experts for appraisal. So yeah, that is fun to see because there's many ways in an attic, as they said here, it was covered in dust and newspapers and other things that could have damaged it in some way, but seemed to be in pretty good condition. I think the picture shows yeah, the grade they got for it was a 9.0, so in very good condition. So yeah,
mm,
that seems like a great thing, and certainly leads to them being more comfortable uh,
hmm
with their financial affairs after their mother's passing, which is always at least a good thing to see. Though living in San Francisco for so long, I'm sure that house will also fetch a good bit of money.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure
Almost
they'll be
certainly.
pretty good for a long
hmm
time. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So that is one hell of a find.
Yeah,
Um, and to be literally in that good of condition, like look at that. Like that is it, like remember this comic came out in like I'm trying to remember when.
1939.
Yeah, so that is close to us almost 90 years that thing's been, been in there pretty much under lock and key, and like in that good a condition, that is just insane.
Yeah. These three brothers are in their 50s and 60s. So it's like, all right, I'm retired. We're done.
Yeah. You got to remember, like these comic books, old comic books, they were not published to last.
Yeah.
They were published on like really cheap paper.
Yeah. Being in San Francisco probably helped because that's a fairly steady climate. There's not a
hmm
ton of super high temperatures or super low temperatures there.
Yeah.
They kind of stay pretty steady and without that much extreme weather. So that probably helped. And, being in a good box also
hmm
helps. Why comic book collectors have those long boxes and all that and
Yeah.
take care of that stuff pretty well. Just keep
Oh
it out of
yeah.
the sun and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That worked out for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just crazy that it managed to survive that long in that kind of condition. But yeah. So yeah, moving on from there, we got the science news. Scientists have discovered, with the help of the Perseverance rover, that might have found evidence of lightning on Mars.
Yeah, something that's been kind of uh, theorized has to happen on Mars, but never really have any evidence of that. But they had the let's see what it says here. The rover's microphone picked up signs of electrical arcs just a few centimeters long, which were accompanied by audible shock waves. As the lighting researcher at Cardiff University in the UK says here, there's been a very big mystery about lightning on Mars for a long time. It's probably one of the biggest mysteries about Mars. Key thing here is that we actually have a rover on the surface of Mars that appears to have detected something that fits our idea of what we think lightning on Mars would look like. As for the other planets in our solar system, flashes of lightning have been seen in the atmospheres of Jupiter and Saturn. Lightning has also been detected on Neptune and Uranus, but finding lightning has proven more elusive on the closer planets here, especially Mars.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, yeah, Mars doesn't really have uh, as much of an atmosphere as we have here.
Mm.
It's just been kind of, I think it's happened over the millions of years. It's kind of um, dissipated to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've done experiments and such trying to replicate the sort of environment that Mars has and figure out it should work.
Mm.
But we haven't really seen much evidence here because yeah, it has a lot of like blowing dust and such, and as you might know, that would create like static electricity kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a great thing there to see. There's more
Definitely.
information here if you want to read it, but yeah, a lot of good stuff here.
Oh yeah, and the implications of them finding lightning on Mars are pretty neat. No question about it. Um, and now we're on to the entertainment portion of the show. Turns out, 50 Cent, he's got a docuseries that's going to be focusing on P Diddy, and it's going to be debuting on Netflix December 2nd, so next week. I
Yeah,
think Tuesday, actually.
yeah, this week coming up. Yeah, called Sean Combs: The Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
Will finally be out as he's serving his prison sentence.
Yep.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that looks like the. Let's see. The series is a staggering examination of the media mogul, music legend, and convicted offender.
Mm-hmm.
Born with an insatiable drive for stardom and a knack for spotting talent, Combs made a quick ascent through the ranks of the music industry with Bad Boy Entertainment. Was crucial in bringing
Mm-hmm.
hip hop to the pop masses and launching the careers of dozens of generation-defining artists like the notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, Joe Decky, and Danny Kane. Along the way, as detailed by his former associates, childhood friends, artists, and employees, something darker began to color his ambitions.
Mm.
Through explosive, never before seen materials, including exclusive interviews with those formerly in his orbit, the documentary tells the story of a powerful and enterprising man in the gilded empire he built in the underworld that lay just beneath its surface. 4 hour-long episodes for that, so I might check that one
Mm.
out. See how far I can get into it.
Yeah. Without turning it off in absolute disgust.
Yeah, like, oh, that's
Ugh.
enough for me.
Mm-hmm. And then we got this news: Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning will be on Paramount Plus on December 4th. So December 4th. So yeah, it's going to be Thursday.
Yeah, so hopefully that is the end of that series. That's been a lot of movies for like 29 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Supposedly this is the last one, I think. So yeah, that'll be fun to see. I'll probably have to rewatch some of the other ones. Like the first few, like three or four, kind of don't really play a ton of with the continued like narrative of all that stuff. But then
Mm-hmm.
they, much like Fast and Furious, at a certain point, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna tie all this together in this like ridiculously bombastic action series kind of thing." And especially as news of Tom Cruise kind of doing more ridiculous stunts himself and
Mm-hmm.
not kind of letting the stunt crew do all the work. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that'll be fun to see. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
there you go.
And yeah. And moving on, we also learned that Warner Brothers Discovery is now asking for second round bids that are higher than their original proposals.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, doing their second round bids that are supposed to be in by Monday. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that are higher than their original proposals. Essentially, to weed out anybody that doesn't want to stick around,
Mm-hmm.
negotiate this. So, which I guess primarily involves Paramount, Skydance, Comcast, and Netflix. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll probably find out where these companies are at in the next few days.
Yep.
But yeah, fun times.
Oh yeah. Um. And last story we got for tonight. FX is working on a Far Cry TV series.
Yeah,
Now, how they're going to pull that off, I do not know.
yeah.
I suppose we'll see.
These are being co-created by Noah Hawley and Rob Mack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess Rob Mack will be uh, the star of the series or this first season. It'll stream on Hulu in the US and Disney Plus internationally, as well
Mm-hmm.
as being on FX on TV at some point. But they do say the series will follow an anthology format. I guess like the games, and none of the games really feature characters from the previous ones outside of like
Mm-hmm.
their DLC stuff that they do. So yeah, which kind of makes sense. I assume they'll have a new cast and all that. We'll see where that goes because yeah, I don't know if that's gonna be a hugely compelling thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they do at least identify that the villains are the big star, which is kind of how it has gone.
Oh yeah.
Because the main characters are kind of whatever. They're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
there for you to fill in, and a lot of the villains are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 is like the one that has the best villain, and then they kill him like 2/3 of the way through, and have a rich guy, evil guy, there to
Mm-hmm.
take over, and then people are like, this guy's not as good as the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
But yeah,
But
that could be okay.
yeah, it could be. You know, we'll see how it works. But yeah, with that, I do believe we've got ourselves a show for the night, folks. Yes, we do. We have got ourselves a show. So I would like to remind all of our listeners, if you got a question, comment, or something to read on the air, we can do that if you get us at letsweekenders@gmail.com. That's letsweekenders@gmail.com. We got a link for you in the show notes, so you can click on that and send us something. Uh, on top of that, of course, if you've also heard us on Apple Podcasts, you can also catch our little bit of unscripted shenanigans at TuneIn, RSS, or basically any kind of podcast aggregator you can possibly think of. Because if we're not on there, just wait a few minutes. We'll be on there as soon as we find it. Um, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wind it all down here. Thank you, Chris, once again for joining me on this little endeavor. All of you out there who are listening and enjoy the sound of my voice, even though I yawn and cough all the time. Uh, if you like what you hear, please do not hesitate to share us with your friends, your family, your casual acquaintances, and your mortal enemies, because they may hate you, but there's a good 50-50 chance that they'll end up liking us, and that sounds like something that could benefit everybody, I think. I failed advanced math in high school, so don't take my word for it. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you all for joining us this week. Next time you hear us, it is going to be in December. So for the last show of November, good night, everybody.